अथ सिद्धांत मुक्तावली.
Siddhant Muktavali, garland of beads in the form of devotional principles. Commentaries by 9 different spiritual teachers are available on this scripture. In Vikram Samvat 1555, this scripture was created through the mercy on Achyutadas Sanodia for purpose of stabilizing, increasing concentration during seva so that the mind does not wander here and there. Manasi Seva. Siddhant Muktavali means the garland of pearls of principles. Based on every scripture summary form of all doctrines, the conclusion devotional service to Krishna and the form of this devotional service, its results and essential for that, the knowledge of the form of that supreme absolute truth, Lord Krishna, is told herein. Here for that purpose, this beautiful necklace of spiritual principles by means of Achyutadas has been presented as a mercy on his own people.
Natva harim pravakshami swasiddhanta vinishchayam Krishna seva sada karya manasi sa paramata.
Verse 1. After bowing down to Lord Hari, I am speaking after deciding nicely the doctrine. It is mandatory to always render devotional service to Lord Shri Krishna. The performing devotional service through one's mind is the last result, Manasi Seva. When one's mind is constantly engrossed in devotional service of Lord, it is called Manasi Seva. After bowing down to the Lord Hari, the remover of all obstacles on the path of devotion, Sri Mahaprabhuji is ordering after due diligence on the subject matter of the doctrine of self that all living entities on the path of self-realization must always render devotional service to the Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The very first pearl from the garland of the principle, an important principle, he is ordering devotional services to Lord Shri Krishna. The order is only for devotional service to Lord Shri Krishna because he is supreme absolute truth, absolute element, form of complete bliss, the original Raso Vaish, from explained in the Vedas. The primary responsibility of living entity is to serve the Supreme Lord, being the part and parcel of Supreme Lord, just like the prime responsibility of is to serve the Master. The main result of that service is service by mind, by which living entity is connected with Supreme Lord all time. Manasi Seva. The first 2 verses, Sri Mahaprabhuji is telling the teaching of service to Lord Krishna, symptoms of its primary result, situation, symptoms of own identity and symptoms of many other secondary result.
Chetastat pravanam seva Tatsiddhyai tanuvittaja Tatah sansara dukkhasya Nivrittir brahma bodhanam.
Verse 2. It is mandatory to invest one's mind in the service of Lord Krishna. It is perfected by devotion of body and financial resources in Lord's service. Tanuja Vittaja Seva. This result in liberation from worldly distresses and realization of Brahma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Here you are telling about symptoms of the form of service, that is, what kind of service shall be done in our own path of self-realization by own efforts. Service of Lord is the primary means and only that is the result. In this world, connecting with Supreme Lord through service by one's own senses and also in spiritual realm, remaining in service via transcendental body. So knowing this form of service is very important. While executing service to Supreme Lord, the complete connection of mind with Supreme Lord and by that service, Manasi Seva, get perfected. The process of mind and the intelligence get engaged in different pastimes, leelas of Supreme Lord. Shri Krishna in the mood of separation is called service of mind. But to achieve that service by one's own body and financial resources is mandatory. Because of this, in the original verse, word Tanuvittaja is given jointly. Giving money to someone to offer service to Supreme Lord, that is financial resource is mine, but body is from others, and earning money by the service of Supreme Lord, that is body is mine, but financial resources from others, such services will not fructify as per principle laid down in Sri Mahaprabhuji. When one's internal and external senses gets engaged in Lord services, then only it can become pleasure giving to Supreme Lord, then only it can appease the Lord, and living entity will also get result of only such service. In this way, distress of material world gets eradicated by service to Supreme Lord. This is because when mind and intelligence get engaged in the service and pastimes of the Supreme Lord all the time and taking transcendental pleasure in that, then mental distress of the world does not affect his mind. Being in such a state of long duration, the living entity gets the realization of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, which is very rare. The service by one's body and material resources is a symptom that living entity is practicing devotional service, and service by one's mind of the symptom of the situation where living entity gets the result of his devotional practices. The damsels of VRAJ Gopijan, the perfection of service by mind is the primary result, and on reaching at this stage, the elimination of distresses happen easily, and after this elimination of distresses, the realization of Supreme Personality of Godhead occurs. This is secondary result. For example, mango tree is planted to get the mango fruit. When the tree gets developed, the mango fruit is obtained from it. This obtaining mango fruit from the tree is the primary result, while the pleasure of the shadow of the tree, cool breeze and sitting and chirping of birds on the tree are the secondary result. In the same way, the service of mind, Mansa Seva, is primary result, while elimination of material distresses and realization of super personality of Godhead are secondary result.
Param Brahma tu Krishno hi Satchidanandakam Bruhat Dvirupam tadhi sarvam syat Ekam tasmad vilakshanam.
Verse number 3. The Supreme Absolute Truth is only Lord Shri Krishna, and other infallible Absolute Truth has Satchidananda form, that is combination of existence, Sat, conscious, Chitta, and bliss is Anand. Such two forms of Parabrahma, Shri Krishna, and another Akshara Brahma. Out of these two, one has the form of this world which is available in particle of the world, and another is transcendental to this world, it means Brahma. The material world appears from infallible absolute truth, Akshara Brahma, and only merge back into it. Such Brahma and Supreme Brahma are two forms. Brahma can be understood from the great knowledge of scriptures, and Supreme Brahma, Shri Krishna, can be realized through the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Since that Supreme Brahma Lord, Shri Krishna, are outside transcendental of this world and Vedas, that is, he is beyond the worldly knowledge, so he can't be understood by worldly material knowledge, but can be realized. Due to this, he is called extraordinary. In Ananda Brahmavali of Taittiriya Upanishad, the measurement of pleasure is being done. Their measurement of pleasure is done from a human being till infallible absolute truth, but their supreme absolute truth is called incalculable pleasurable. In this way, Parabrahma, Shri Krishna, and Akshara Brahma has the difference. The infallible Brahma, Akshara Brahma, has two forms. One is this material world, which is called with the different names and forms, and another is the one expressed in Shrutis, that is Puranas. By worshipping that, the knowledgeable living entities get liberation in it, and that place is called the residing place of Supreme Person. This is the second form of infallible Brahma, that is Akshar Brahma.
Aparam tatra purvasmin vadino bahudha jaguh Mayikam sagunam karyam swatantran cheti naikadha.
Verse number 4. The two forms of that infallible Brahma, Akshar, the first form of material world, has been described by learned people with many differences. There is no single way of explanation, but many ways of illusionary, material modes and independent work. Earlier learned people has told this world in many ways. Someone considers this world to be made of illusion, like rope is seen in a snake, or seashell sometimes gives an illusion of silver. Some say that the material world is false, just like the dreams. In Sankhya philosophy, the world is considered to be made of material modes, sagun, and it works through the only 5 gross material elements. Sankhya Shastra believes in non-existence of God. Sankhya Yoga by Kapil Muni is different. In many beliefs, this world is considered against the beliefs of the Vedas. The Nyaya Shastra of sage Gautam considers the world as only a work. Many believe that due to God's desire, activation of action, everything caused this material world, while some philosophers consider that this world appeared spontaneously without any plan and cause. In Jain belief also, this world is considered to appear independently. There are such beliefs also that world is not created due to arrangements of any supreme power. People working independently against the order of Vedas, called Mimamsak, believes that this world is the same since time immemorial as it is appearing today, and there is no controller of it. In this way, many people talked about the world in multiple ways.
तदेवैतत् प्रकारेण भवतीति श्रुतेर्मतम् द्विरूपं चापि गंगावज् ज्ञेयं सा जलरूपिणी.
Verse 5. That infallible Brahma, Akshara Brahma, is like this in the form of the world. This is belief of Shrutis. Just like Gangaji is known in 2 forms, one in metaphysical form, Adhyatmic, and other is the water form. Sri Mahaprabhuji is now explaining the belief of Shruti, Vedas, about this world, as all beliefs described above are against Vedas. With the example of Gangaji, the 2 forms of the world are explained. The spiritual of metaphysical form and the material water from Gangaji. According to Shruti, the cause of this world is infallible Brahma, that is Akshar. The world appears from the infallible Brahma and merges back into the same. Gangaji bestows the liberation and destroys the sins, etc. is the spiritual or divine or metaphysical form, that is Adhyatmic. The same way, the spiritual metaphysical form of Brahma is infallible Brahma, from which the material world appears and merges back into it. Just like the second form of Gangaji is water form, Adhi Bhautik, which can be seen by everyone, that is material form. Same way, the material form of Brahma is this world. In this way, he explained the 2 material and spiritual or metaphysical form of Brahma with example of Gangaji.
माहात्म्य संयुता नृणां सेवतां भुक्ति मुक्तिदा मर्यादा मार्ग विधिना तथा ब्रह्मापि बुध्यताम्.
Verse number 6. Whoever serve and worship Gangaji with this spiritual knowledge about Gangaji, they obtain object of sense enjoyment and liberation from Gangaji. In the same way, the modest devotee or learned by characteristic knowledge can obtain liberation by knowing the metaphysical form of Brahma. The water of Gangaji reduces in summer but increases in rainy season. Sometimes impurities also appear in it. Same way, diversity appears in this world also. The people who serve Gangaji, understanding metaphysical importance with whatever feelings, Gangaji rewards them material benefit or liberation accordingly. In the same way, whoever devotees, understanding the metaphysical importance of infallible Brahma via this process of modesty path, worships Brahma with whatever emotions, get liberation, etc. result according to you. The divine personality Gangaji, that is Adi Daivik, and the river Adi Bhautik are simultaneously same, and the different because pilgrimage river form is material form of Gangaji and divine personality form is spiritual form of Gangaji, Adhyatmic. Same way, the material world and the infallible Brahma are also simultaneously same and different. Just like the milk and sugar becomes one after mixing with each other, same way infallible Brahma is woven into the weft in this world and hence non-different from it. Service of Brahma by knowing such metaphysical importance of Brahma produces result accordingly. Just like in veil, different color and shapes appear from outside, that is dhoti, linen, etc. But the weft of thread is not prominently visible, but that weft is the main cause of that cloth. Same way, the world appears in different shapes, living entities, all living, non-living things in multiple forms, but in that Brahma is woven as a weft. This philosophy of Brahma from Upanishads has been told by Sri Mahaprabhuji with minute details here. Brahmavad.
तत्रैव देवता मूर्तिर् भक्त्या यादृश्यते क्वचित् गंगायाञ्च विशेषेण प्रवाहा भेद बुद्धये.
Verse number 7. Sometimes some devotees see the spiritual form of Gangaji in water also too, if seen with devotion. If the intelligence does not differentiate between two forms of Gangaji, then the divine personality Gangaji can be especially seen in the flow of water of Gangaji. Some high-class devotees can get that glimpse of the divine personality of Gangaji in the waters of Gangaji when seen both water and divine personality with the intelligence that does not differentiate between two forms. In this world only, one can get glimpses of God if one sees this world with non-differentiating intelligence, that is understanding this world as material form of Brahma, Adi Bhautik plus Adi Daivik.
प्रत्यक्षासान सर्वेषां प्राकाम्यं स्यात्तया जले विहिताच्च फलात्तद्धि प्रतित्यापि विशिष्यते.
Verse 8. The direct sight of divine personality of Gangaji can be done in the water by intense desire, but can't be done by everyone. This results appears to be special more that expressed in scriptures, and then it can be thought that it is not easy. The same is true with the respect of Brahma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna can be seen in the world, but for this result, acquire the metaphysical knowledge of God, and from that intense devotion and getting the feeling of separation, then perfecting the feeling of soul of everyone. That is, Supreme Soul brings the realization of Brahma in every atom. Then remain no harmony between this world and the form of God. In this way, one can have realized vision. In the history of devotional path, this has been seen many times, but this result can't be obtained by everyone. This is very special.
यथा जलं तथा सर्वं यथा शक्ता तथा बृहत् यथा देवी तथा कृष्णस् तत्राप्येतदिहोच्यते.
Verse 9. Just like water of Ganga, same way all material world, Adi Bhautik, as the power importance of Gangaji, that is Adhyatmic, same way infallible Brahma and as the divine personality Gangaji, that is Adi Daivik, is the same way the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. There also it is further being told that Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmic and Adi Daivik forms. Here three forms of Gangaji and Brahma is explained. Just like Gangaji has water form, Brahma has form of this world universal material. Just like the importance of Gangaji making it a pilgrimage, infallible Brahma is at the same level of spiritualism. Like the divine personality form of Gangaji, Brahma has a personality form of Sri Krishna, the supreme personalities of Godhead divine. Tatrapyat, there are all scriptures has talked about the Brahma in the same way.
Jagattu trividham proktam Brahma Vishnu Shivastatah Devatarupavat prokta Brahmanitham Harirmatah.
Verse 10. The material world is said to be of three forms. those three forms are divine personalities, Brahmaji, Vishnu and Shiva. Those forms are said to be demigods, but those are all forms of Brahma perform all their activities as per the will of Lord Hari. The material world is said in scriptures in three manners. Lord Brahmaji creates the world in the mode of passion, Rajas. Lord Vishnu maintains this world in the mode of goodness, Sattvic. And Lord Shiva annihilates this world in mode of aggressiveness, Tamas. These three demigods are empowered forms of Supreme Personality of Godhead. They don't have any independent power to perform their activities, as these three are presiding deities of three modes of material nature. Same way the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, has authority over infallible Brahma, Akshar as well. The kind of relation that exists between material world and infallible Brahma, same kind of relation exists between these three demigods and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Lord Krishna. Since just like material world appears from infallible Brahma, same way from Brahma, absolute truth, these three demigods appear. In the end, Supreme Absolute Truth has authority on all of these, and in the end, due to desire of Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, the material world, appeared from infallible Brahma, and to control this material world only by his desire. These three demigods appear to control the nature, and these three demigods are performing appearances of the world, maintenance, etc. All these activities as per desire of Lord Hari, according to Lord Hari, Shri Krishna, and not in their independent decision.
कामचारस्तु लोकेऽस्मिन् ब्रह्मादिभ्यो न चान्यथा परमानन्दरूपे तु कृष्णे स्वात्मनि निश्चयः.
Verse 11. In this material world, whatever is being given by Lord Brahmaji, etc., demigods that are only a form of fulfillment of material desires and nothing more, and only Lord Shri Krishna is ecstatic, only he gives his own people bliss in self, Atman Anand. Here some commentators also say that the only desire of living entities following path of grace, Pushti Marg, is ecstatic. Lord Shri Krishna himself who bestows the same bliss. Whatever is being given by Brahmaji, Vishnu and Shiva, demigods that are only sense enjoyments in the form of fulfillment of desires of living entities. That is, they grant whatever desires living entities have. Those desires are only enjoyment on bodily platform and nothing more. The living entities in this material world associated with these three demigods are suffering from three modes of material nature, as these three demigods are respectively under the material modes of goodness, Sattvic, passion, Rajas, and ignorance is called Tamas. But because form of supreme bliss, Lord Krishna is the desire of living entities on the path of devotion, that is Pushti, there is no chance that material desires stay in those living entities. Being the form of supreme bliss, Lord Shri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, brings those living entities above the modes of material nature, Nirguna, and gives them a bliss to them, Atma Anand. The bodily enjoyments are limited to body, but away from these bodily desires, Lord Shri Krishna is the giver of eternal bliss. Since these three primary demigods can only give results up to fulfilling material desires of the devotees, so any other demigods can never give a result which is eternal.
अतस्तु ब्रह्मवादेन कृष्णे बुद्धिर्विधीयताम् आत्मनि ब्रह्मरूपे हि छिद्राव्योम्नीव चेतनाः.
Verses 12. For that, to connect with eternal self-bliss, one must surrender the intelligence of Lord Shri Krishna with the feeling of theory of Brahma. Just like a single sky appears with many holes when seen through the sieve, a single sky appears multiple due to sieve like ignorance. In the same way, till the time the living entity has a sight with fivefold ignorance, even though Supreme Absolute Truth, Brahma, is a single Supreme Element, Supreme Power appears to be multiple forms to them. Till the time the living entity has a trace of four ignorance of the body conception, that is Dehadhyas, sense of enjoyment, Indradhyas, living force, Pranadhyaya is an impurity of mind. Antakaranadhyaya. It is forgets original identity of self, Swarupa Vismruti, and Supreme Lord. That is called the fifth ignorance. When single Supreme Absolute Truth is Super Soul, and we all souls are the part and parcel of that, this forgetfulness happens due to ignorance, and from that one finds illusion in the Brahma, opposed to the words of Vedas. On elimination of this ignorance like sieve, all divine personalities, that is incarnation, demigods and demigoddesses, will appear as a part of and a different power of that single supreme absolute truth, Brahma, and will result in feeling of omnipresence, Sarvatma Bhava. Up to here, Sri Mahaprabhuji has very minutely and beautifully opened the theory of Brahma, that is Brahmavad. From verse 11 till 16, the symptoms of living entities begin services are told. To connect with the Supreme Lord in His service with all senses, we must know complete importance of that form with which we are connecting with Lord. So Sri Mahaprabhuji, after first describing all opposite theory from Vedas, explaining all theory of Brahma, that Lord Sri Krishna is Supreme Absolute Truth, which has been proved by Vedas, now for the living entities connecting in service, symptoms of those living entities and categorize about their situation, so that such living entities get awake about their situation in the service of Lord. The symptoms of living entities in the service of Lord. 1. The knowledge of identity of living entity, the knowledge of own original form, the knowledge about the power, importance of Supreme Absolute Truth. The third, unconditional love of Lord Shri Krishna. Fourth, all actions as per that love. Any living entity having all these four qualifications is called perfect, the best, the great devotee. The best devotee who accepts the Lord as a whole and consider oneself as a part of the whole and remain with that realization. When any one qualification is not available, then one is called second class devotee. Just like importance, powers of Supreme Lord can be obtained through reading or hearing the scriptures. But if for self, the realization of being part and parcel of Supreme Lord is not there, instead of realization of soul remains on bodily conception of life, and due to this ignorance, illusion love of Shri Krishna does not manifest. This is second class, middle class devotee. Now symptoms of a third class devotee are told. Even not a single qualification is there out of the four explained above. No knowledge about of own self or supreme soul, but only actively serving is called third class junior devotee. And inferior devotee are those who serves the Supreme Lord or makes use of the Lord's name to fulfill their selfish interest or material desire. The living entities are called heinous, immoral in scriptures, who for selfish motives use holy name of Lord or misuse service of Lord. When the personified Mother Earth, Dharti Mata, went to ocean of milk, Sagar, to pray the Lord Hari with demigods, then she told the same reason for not being able to bear the load of sinful earth, which is the name and form of her husband, that is Lord Hari, is being sold now.
उपाधिनाशे विज्ञाने ब्रह्मात्मत्वावबोधने गंगातीरस्थितो यद्वद् देवतां तत्र पश्यति.
13th verse. Just as the devotee standing on the bank of Ganga with the right attitude has a chance to see there the divine personality of Gangaji, similarly on disappearance of obstructions from titles, sieve of like ignorance, and on obtaining the spatial knowledge, one can realize absolute truth, Lord Krishna, everywhere, inside and outside. On disappearance of ignorance like sieve, they especially realize absolute truth, and then one says that absolute truth everywhere. This world appears to be work of that absolute truth. It appears that one only sees absolute truth, Brahma, everywhere, outside as well as in one's soul. Just like a devotee living on the banks of Gangaji, taking firm shelter of Gangaji, with devotion, understanding glories of Gangaji, and with knowledge sees the divine personality of Goddess Gangaji in the water and pilgrimage of Gangaji. Same way, on disappearance of nescience and gaining knowledge of everywhere one single absolute truth, this world also one sees that absolute truth, that is only Lord Shri Krishna.
तथा कृष्णं परं ब्रह्म स्वस्मिन् ज्ञानी प्रपश्यति संसारी यस्तु भजते सदूरस्थो यथा तथा.
14th verse. Verse 14. Just as knowing Lord Shri Krishna as Supreme Absolute Truth, the learned can see that Absolute Truth in self nicely, same way one engrossed in material activities worship the Supreme Lord from far away position. All living entities of this world sees that absolute truth in everyone. After acquiring knowledge of absolute truth, everything is only part of Brahma. On acquiring such knowledge, one keeps on seeing that absolute truth in one's soul. Sansari yastu. The explanation of this sentence will come in next verses. That is how materially engrossed living entities do worship in position of remaining away from Lord. Here situation of only learned knowing glories has been explained. The subject of devotees staying in the path of or far away from Lord Krishna will explain in further verse.
अपेक्षित जलादीनाम् अभावात् तत्र दुःख भाग तस्मात् श्री कृष्ण मार्गस्थो विमुक्तः सर्वलोकतः.
Verse 15. That living entity only obtains misery there in the absence of water, who is expecting water there. So by situating on the path of Lord Krishna, one can nicely get rid of all material titles. The living entity fully engrossed in material world, suffering from ego and attachment, remain engrossed in cycle of this material world. Although he has the desire to see Sri Gangaji, but due to this world he only gets suffering despite of expecting water due to absence of rains, touch, bath and vision of Sri Gangaji. Same way the living entity remains engrossed in the material world in absence of attraction or love towards the Lord Krishna, which remains elusive till the living entity obtains the full knowledge of the form of Lord, but continues his service to Lord mechanically in the hope of Lord, but only gets miseries due to attachment in this world, and original results remain elusive. Tasmat, for that by situating on the unmotivated devotional path of Sri Krishna, the false ego and attachment of this world gets eradicated, and that having entity gets rid of all material problems nicely after love of Supreme Lord get evoked, because situating on path of devotional service no material expectation will remain. Thus here the difference between the path of knowledge and the path of devotion has been explained.
आत्मानन्द समुद्रस्थं कृष्णमेव विचिन्तयेत् लोकार्थी चेत् भजेत् कृष्णं क्लिष्टो भवति सर्वथा.
Verse 16. The living entity situated in sea of bliss in own self, Atmanand, always meditate only Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. One who worships Lord Krishna for material gains only gets distress in all the ways. Now the position that living entity can obtain, who has liberated from the world, is described. Free from all material qualifications, situation only on the path of devotion of Lord Krishna, the living entity remains entrenched in meditation of Supreme Lord Shri Krishna while enjoying the ocean of bliss in soul. Since Krishna himself is situated in bliss of own self, and then in the heart of that living entity also continues meditation of pastime of full of bliss, Lord Krishna keeps going on. Lokarthi, the one who worships Sri Krishna for some material desires, they will only get distress, because one will never get material favors from the worship of Lord Krishna, and thereafter will not obtain Krishna also. Vedas also described that devotion for desires bear fruit only by demigods. Shri Krishna is only enjoyer of selfless love, selfless devotion, and Lord has been told to enemy of material attachment in scriptures, worshipping Shri Krishna, who snatches the false ego and attachment of this world and attracts the living entities towards himself for material wealth and will result only in distress.
क्लिष्टोऽपि चेत् भजेत् कृष्णं लोको नश्यति सर्वथा ज्ञानाभावे पुष्टिमार्गे तिष्ठेत् पूजोत्सवादिषु.
Verse 17. Praying Lord, Shri Krishna, even in distress, the material attachment gets eradicated of that living entity. The living entity that lacks this knowledge should remain in path of grace, Pushti Marg, by means of festivals, worship, etc. In verse above, it has been explained that connecting with Lord Krishna in devotion with desire of material gain will result in distress. But even after obtaining that distress, if one remains connected with the Lord Krishna through services, prayers, etc., gradually false ego and material attachment will get destroyed and mundanness will go away. Connection with Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna with any kind of feeling will bear result. Jnana bhave. Whoever living entity on path of devotion, Pushti entities, lacks knowledge of own identity and Lord's identity, such living entities of path of Pushti Marg, if remain connected with their worship able deity through worship, daily services, festivals and devotion with material desires, etc., as explained in 11th canto in Bhagavatam, there is a chance that one obtains knowledge and pure devotion again.
मर्यादास्थस्तु गंगायां श्रीभागवत तत्परः अनुग्रह पुष्टिमार्गे नियामक इति स्थितिः.
Verse 18. A devotee in the doctrine of established rules should stay near Ganga and be engrossed in reading Srimad Bhagavat earnestly, but Lord Shri Krishna's mercy in the only controlling force in the path of grace, Pushti Marg. Here you are giving order of reading Srimad Bhagavat on banks of river Ganga, because Sri Gangaji appeared from the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. Therefore, there the devotion of lotus feet can be perfected, and though through Srimad Bhagavatam the love of Supreme Lord manifests. The living entities on the path of doctrine of established rules are usually inclined toward the fruitive activities which give something in return described in scriptures. Therefore, for such living entities, gets perfection in their activity by staying in pilgrimage places like Gangaji and sincerely reading Srimad Bhagavatam regularly. This is because through Srimad Bhagavatam both the glories of Supreme Lord as well as love for Him get really established Gnana Bhakti, and for the living entities on the path of grace who has taken complete shelter of Supreme Lord, only mercy of Supreme Lord is controlling factor. By His grace the shelter can remain firm and result can be obtained. For mercy place, time and means are not mandatory controlling elements.
उभयोस्तु क्रमेणैव पूर्वोक्तैव फलिष्यति ज्ञानाधिको भक्ति मार्ग एवं तस्मान्निरूपितः.
19th verse. Verse 19. For both the categories, the above referred result, service by mind, that is mental devotion, that is Mansas Seva, will be achieved successively. The path of devotion is superior to that of knowledge, and hence it is so narrated. From the practice of doctrine of established rules, gradually attachment towards Supreme Lord developed, and subsequently that living entity enters the path of grace. Thereafter fructifies the next already described before explained fruit of service by mind, mental devotion. Sequentially from established rules or to path of grace, and thereafter pure devotional service are obtained as fruit by the total grace, Maryada Pushti, Suddha Pushti. Gyayandhiko, path of devotion is superior to path of knowledge. Practitioners of path of knowledge, called learned, only obtain salvation escaping this material world. But the practitioners of path of established rules due to devotion in Lord gets bliss of vision, touch, etc. of Supreme Lord, which is far superior of salvation. And devotion on path of grace shall result in obtaining the Supreme Lord directly. Therefore, devotion is better than knowledge. Hence, by the example of Gangaji, the path of devotion has been expressed gradually. Avam tasmat nirupitaha.
Bhaktya bhave tu tirastho yatha dushtay swakarmabhi anyatha bhavamapannas tasmat sthanachya nashyati.
Verse 20th. In the absence of devotion, however, even on the banks of Ganga with his own sinful activities or having some perverted feelings, one only degenerates from his position. In the absence of devotion and service done by material desires are only a waste. If living on the banks of Ganga with no devotion, one performs sinful activities for his own selfish motive while living in the place of pilgrim, so by such hypocrite nature, one will be surely destroyed completely. One will also fall down from his status. Whether one is saint of pilgrim place or priest from a place of a pilgrimage, or takes birth in the house of a devotee, or taken birth in the family of priest, even then without devotion, only for selfish motive, if one is staying in the pilgrimage just to fulfill the stomach, then neither he is going to get any mercy of demigods or demigoddesses of pilgrimage places, but even he will fall from that position. He will lose his Brahmansial splendor. Just like if a person uses the water of Ganges for evil, dirty and unaccount activities, while living on the banks of Ganges, he will neither get result of living in pilgrim place, but he will be responsible for sins. Same way, without any faith and devotion, one serving the Lord for selfish motives be in hypocrisy will neither get the Supreme Lord and will become participant of sinful reaction, will fall from their position, and qualities of Vaishnavas will also vanish from him. And due to fall down from their position by their sinful activities, they may take a birth in the lower caste of life.
एवं स्वशास्त्र सर्वस्वं मया गुप्तं निरूपितम् एतद् बुद्ध्वा विमुच्येत पुरुषः सर्वसंशयात्.
Verse 21. Thus I have laid down the secret of all my doctrines of devotion. A person who thoroughly understands them will be free from all the doubts. In the end, after describing the need of selfless devotion, here in the conclusion of scriptures, Vallabhacharya-ji have explained the confidential secrets of all scriptures as per his doctrine. He expressed all principles based on scriptures. You are ordering your own people to become free from all doubts by explaining all the following in the scripture. The order of service to Shri Krishna, as summary of all, the form of service, the form of living entities, doing services, different doctrines about this material world, establish the doctrines of Brahma, the three material Adi Bhautik, divine, Adi Daivik, and spiritual form Adhyatmic of absolute truth, three demigods as power of absolute truth and their activities, the difference in the result between devotion to Krishna and other demigods, the difference in the result between selfless devotion and devotional with material desire, superiority of devotional path over path of knowledge, even in devotion path, superiority of path of grace and difference between infallible Brahma and supreme absolute truth, Brahma and Parabrahma. This way, given differences about everything, Sri Mahaprabhuji says, by this Vaishnavas will be free from all the doubt. Thus ends the Siddhant Muktavali prepared by Sri Vallabhacharya ji.